That's rude. Making someone that you care about at all fall in a ditch
crying
on camera is not an okay thing to do, okay?
Yeah.
So
anyway, they didn't do that. So respect Brazil.
Hi.
Hello.
My name's Ashley.
My name's Mitch.
And this is our channel, and it's just called Membriash.
And we're doing a recap of the final 2 episodes of Love is Blind Brazil, episodes 9 and 10.
Absolutely.
We're really busy right now. Part of it is like you got your interview and stuff and whatever else, and we need to get through too many episodes of this and the bowl before Wednesday/Friday, so we're going to couple these up.
We also burnt ourselves out slightly, let's be honest.
Yeah.
We just got to the point where...
It was like weeks straight of daily videos, and we just couldn't keep up, so we had to take a day off, and then we're like upgrading our equipment in the background, and we got to work on the house, and it's a heat wave outside. There's just so much going on right now.
There's a lot happening, so we have for you not a reaction, but a recap.
But we'll be reacting to the reunion that's coming out on Wednesday, so
yes,
we're gonna be doing that right away.
That'll go up on Wednesday, so if you're worried about timeliness, it'll got you. Right, you can trust us. We will get ours up as soon as we can.
We want to thank everybody for all the engagement and commentary and stuff that we've been chatting in the comments below. A lot of people giving alternative opinions and views about like the show, which I really greatly appreciate. I think I've said a few times, like, you know, especially when you're talking about a different country that we don't really fully understand, and a language we don't know, like there's a lot that gets missed or either in translation or just like context. So really appreciate everybody and all the feedback they've been providing.
For sure. And it's nice too, because we all come to viewing these shows and talking to things with like our own set of personal experiences that kind of guide how we feel about certain people. And it's for sure interesting to hear different perspectives on different people from people that have just had different life experiences and view circumstances differently than we do.
So we're just gonna, we're gonna dive right in. The last 2 episodes were actually really pleasant to watch.
Right.
It was us watching everything kind of get smoothed over, and then a lot of people get married.
Yeah. It was cute. And if you like weddings, I don't, but if you like weddings, these are like the episodes for you, honestly.
And I want to say before we get into it too, everybody seems so much more respectful of their partners on this than every single English season ever. It just feels like people are actually here to get married or not hurt the people that they're in a relationship with. Versus
sure.
in all the American editions, I feel like half the time people are just treating it like a game show and just hurting each other for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are complicated things in a lot of these relationships, but there's even a few surprises. So it starts out with the dress tryouts.
Yeah, and I think we last left off and we were on Renata.
I'm really looking forward to it. I admit, I'm like so nervous.
So Renata hadn't gone yet, and we hadn't gotten to see her dress.
We did like half or most of the dresses at this point, but we didn't get to round on. And they used it as a cliffhanger, and they teased us basically insinuating that Renata's single white femaling her best friend again, which she wasn't.
No. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Renata has learned from her mistakes of picking the same song as Marilia.
Like going after the same guys.
Going after the same guys, Marilia. She learned her lesson. And her mom is the one. Her
mom is the instigator.
Renata looks stunning. But in my opinion, the most beautiful dress was Marilia's.
That suggested that she try on Marilia's dress. And her mom very shadily is like, that dress is more beautiful than any of the other dresses.
Yeah, insinuating that the dress that she ends up ultimately choosing is not as good as Marilia's dress.
Do you know the strange thing is I actually liked Renata's dress the best.
And especially for Renata.
Yeah, it
absolutely.
fit her amazingly. She looked beautiful. It showed off her tattoos.
What she wanted.
It was what she wanted, right?
And it is, and at the end of the day, it's what she wanted the most too. She didn't even entertain the other one because she's like, this one looks really good. I mean, I like it. I like the fit. But then the host and of course her mom were like,
she said, Camilla, I love Marilia's dress. Can Renata try it on? No.
And thank goodness.
Yeah.
Like, Renata, especially in the beginning, really ticked me off, but I feel like she redeemed herself a bit. And you could see she had some self-awareness in this episode that she hadn't had before, with her realizing that it would have been a huge faux pas for her to put that dress on, and even just her putting it on her body, I think would have upset Marilia.
Without even walking down or whatever,
Right. And it was just unnecessary because she ended up with a dress that was perfect for her.
So Team Renata on the dress trials.
Yeah,
she showed up really well.
She did.
Yeah. And one thing I actually realized there too that we talked about while we were watching it is I forget that she's a twin.
Yeah.
So some of these behaviors that were like, it's so weird that she's doing this stuff with Melia. She's used to having somebody who she shares probably everything with.
Yeah.
I know not all twins are the same, but it seems like Renata's the type that's like, oh, sharing clothes or talking about their boyfriends or whatever the hell else. You know, it's like a normal thing for a twin.
Yeah.
So she might kind of struggle with some boundaries and stuff around like friends.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine.
But she knew that she'd like pushed Maria's boundaries before, and pushing them one more time was probably not a good plan for her.
Definitely. So we like that.
So how did the boys fitting go?
Well, I was a little perplexed about the color of my suit because it looks a little bit like the color of this blanket.
Dude, but he kind of re-emphasized that he didn't like the suit color. But then I realized there was so many, like, there were pillows, there's like a throw. The color of his suit was just like popping up all over the place in the scenes.
They
I thought that was
had
kind of funny.
sent him and Renata on like a picnic date.
Yeah.
And one of like the picnic items was the same color as his suit. It was like they were trying to
Warm him
subliminally
up.
tell him that color was okay, but he still wasn't feeling it.
Yeah. And it just feels weird. Like, let the guy wear the color he wants.
Yes.
For his day.
Honestly.
It's his wedding.
It feels very frustrating to me that they're not letting him. They should have changed their color scheme to better fit what he wanted, or they should have just given him a different color. They did not need to put that man in orange.
I think the Brazil weddings were better in almost every way than the American versions, except that they didn't seem to give them a lot of choice or autonomy when it came to planning their weddings. It felt like a little weird.
It was frustrating for sure.
Yeah.
I don't love Ale, but like let the man wear a black suit if
that's what he wants. Yeah.
Right.
At some point, Patrick and Melia show up in these weird suits, and Patrick's all about it because they got like gems all over them. They're matching, and he's like, I love this.
Today our outfits are so cool, really different. I wish we could go out in them, me and Melia. It would be so fun.
That's because they forced each of the couples. So each of the couples is like forced by production to go to like a dinner. Yeah, that's like their final date together before the Bachelor/Bachelorette party. And it is so forced. There's no one else in any of the restaurants because clearly they've like bought out the restaurant specifically for Love is Blind Brazil. And at one point, Ali is even like,
I wasn't very excited. I'd rather just stay home.
He seemed very human in that too. He joked about
I rented out the entire restaurant, babe.
Clearly didn't, but he's like he's referencing kind of the show of it all. You know what I mean? He's like we're on a TV show right now.
Well, I
thought that was kind of funny.
It felt kind of stupid to me because it was so forced. Like for the most part, they're having them sit down in like a public place and talk about the problems in their relationship to give like, in my opinion, to lend an air of tension to the upcoming weddings that most of them didn't really have tension around. Yeah. So it ended up being, I don't know, it just didn't.
It felt like the show was really trying the tension. Yeah. And at times there was like weird, crazy horror music and stuff. Like it was weird. It got super intense in a few places. Yeah. But then we just moved on to the, Patrick is kind of like non-committal. Like I think at some point he's talking about like whether or not he's going to get married with the guys. And he just kind of, he seems a little more wishy-washy than I think the other people, but you said you kind of had a different interpretation of that because he's talking about
Melia and I have something different, you know? What we have feels more like being buddies than like a relationship between a man and a woman, but like I'm willing, I'm open to it.
So all the guys met up for their bachelor party and they were like talking in one of the apartments about their relationships and how they felt about people, and Patrick described he and Melia as buddies. Yeah. Which did kind of seem, and he was expressing that was different than what he was used to. Like he's not used to
like
having
the flame
that.
Or whatever and the spark rather than like being a best friend.
Exactly.
Which I like. I think we both deeply love each other, but then also we're like best friends.
Absolutely.
You know, like, and I love that. But you're also talking about knowing somebody for 2 months, and that's a lot of lot different situation.
Well, and then I wondered when he said that whether he and Melia still had the level of attraction that he would want for a partner, but he did go on to clarify.
The passion goes away eventually. Love changes and you're left hopefully with a great friendship. I think that's very much a part of being married.
So that made me feel like maybe he wasn't being, I don't know. It felt kind of weird. I felt kind of strange vibes from him in those moments where it was almost like you could tell that he was having some conflict about whether or not he and Melia were going to get married. Yeah. And I think at one point, one of the people he had like invited to the wedding stuff had asked him, are you guys going to get married? And he still was like, I don't know. Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's the night before they're going to go into their wedding. He's saying, heavy. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what's going to happen at the altar.
Yeah. The boys the men The boys.
The boys.
But, you know, when they're a bunch of guys
boys.
hanging out like that, it's the boys. All right,
Yeah.
so the boys go to go-karting, which looks fun-ish.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's go bro-karting.
Although they're trying to make it seem cooler than it looks in the editing, I think. But then the only really tension there was that Ale got pissed that he didn't win against Patrick in a bet, so he had to buy him a pitcher of beer.
Son of a bitch. It sucks that I lost.
It was cool. It was fun.
It wasn't fun at all.
But which is fine. Like, throw a little fit for a moment, but he kept coming back to it. At least the camera showed him being way more frustrated than was warranted.
Yeah.
Maybe for him that's his like kidding around, but there's also some talk about Ale being a little overly intense and stuff, and that definitely seemed to come out there.
Even Baby said that he's aggressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that he'll like fight with people and stuff like
And we
that
saw
over
that.
little stuff.
It
And
was nothing.
You can see him throwing basically
The hugest fit in the
over
world.
like not winning. And the weird thing is Patrick didn't even win. Patrick came in third.
Yeah, but he did better than Ale.
He did better than Ale, and Ole's all upset that he didn't win.
Yeah.
It was honestly, listen, he's fine, but like,
He's fine.
I wouldn't.
He's okay.
No.
Yeah. I don't hate any of these people because I don't know them. You know, that's where I feel at the end of the day, and it isn't at it, but like he definitely has some shit he needs to work on. There's the bachelorette party where they're just like at a rooftop basically having drinks and hanging out.
Things don't end just because we're getting married. On the contrary, it's just getting started, and it's getting so much better.
To our happiness.
To love, to love, to love.
And all the women come in, and it was at that moment that Ariella continued in my book to like win back some points. Given how she was in a lot of the season, she's just like super chill.
Yes.
She was getting along with everybody. She said,
But I'll behave because today's about you guys.
even though her like relationship fell apart and stuff on the show, like she's very comfortable just taking a back seat, and I thought it was really cool.
It was cool. It's worth mentioning too that Evandro was also at the bachelor party.
Well, they combined because it would be turned into a joint bachelorette party where all the guys and all the girls were there.
Right.
Yeah.
And Evandro had told the guys that like he had tried to apologize to Ariella and she just like hadn't responded at all to him. So I was interested to see like what their interaction was gonna look like once they all met up.
How are you?
Hey,
How are you doing? You good?
I'm fine, you? It was perfectly okay seeing Evandro again.
And it was actually really mature, and then they
just separated,
went their
and
separate ways.
and we talked about that too. And it's like Ariella had such a hard time. We kept saying just like leave him alone, like get away from him, kind of thing. And she was just like not doing that. But then I think there's like we talked about like maybe there's that like the relationship's dead. There's no tension of like are we going to continue trying. There's nothing there anymore, and then she was able to chill out, and he was able to be around her. There didn't seem to be that much tension, and honestly, it looked good. I think some people would watch that and be like, "Oh, it was all an act," or it's like, and I don't feel that way. I do feel like there was real tension there, and then she dispelled it by not having expectation of being in a relationship.
Also, don't you feel like even if it is an act, to be like civil to the person, like let's say she doesn't really want to be civil to Evandro and she wants to yell at him. I mean, it's not about her.
She
like,
showed up
None
well.
of that night is about her.
Yeah.
And none of that night is about him. So realistically, even if they're both just barely holding it together, they should. Like they're adults and they're at somebody else's bachelorette party. They shouldn't be fighting like children at each other. And they weren't. So that's good. Even if they couldn't maintain that ongoing or even if the cameras weren't there, if they would have fought, like who cares? They were able to like figure it out, not freak out at each other, and allow everybody else to have a good night.
Yeah, I think Ariella and Marilia hash it out too, because like Ariella was really kind of. She was like sort of like I think she sort of apologized though, didn't she?
I liked Ariella fully apologized to Melia.
I texted you, but I thought, no, I need to look her in the eye. I couldn't wait to see Melia. I wanted to apologize for being a little rude. So I'm apologizing to you in person. I was rude.
And I really liked that. She
Yeah.
straight up
Yeah,
said, I'm
okay.
sorry. And then Melia was like, no,
That was
it's
awesome.
okay. And she's like, no, it really isn't okay.
Yeah, I think to the camera, Marilia was still a little bit like
Yeah,
I don't
she
really
was.
like Ariella or something like that. But it wasn't a big deal. They all publicly hashed it, and tension was dispelled
I think
for the whole group.
Melia ended up saying essentially that
You got weird, so I got up and left.
It's always the same conversation with her. She's never gonna change.
she's clearly not going to be friends with Ariella.
Yeah,
Which is fine, but as
maybe.
long as it didn't happen on her bachelorette party, I feel like that's okay. Like
Yeah.
she held it together, and that's good enough for me. They don't have to be like best friends.
Yep.
One thing that happens at the joint party is that Melia is talking a lot to a lot of people about how childish Patrick is.
And how kind of uncomfortable she is with, like,
Yeah.
the marriage, honestly. Yeah.
And it honestly feels, even though she ends up wrapping it up with, like, a pleasantry at the end, it ends up feeling really intense.
She's
in
that.
not fully invested or, like, really wanting to be married to this person is what it ended up feeling like to me.
Yeah, there's some foreshadowing.
Yeah.
In like where she's thinking, obviously, at the bachelorette party. And I think she's like one of the only people that they kind of try to act like there's tension with Vanessa and Leonardo, but there isn't. There isn't. You know, and everybody else seems really cool with their partners. So,
yeah. Everyone's like absolutely fine, and the only one that's really struggling is Melia, it seems like.
Even more so than Patrick.
Yeah, well, because I think he even says at one point that he's afraid that she isn't going to be invested in their relationship because he's too childish. And it really almost feels like that. I mean, he's like have you heard of iPad kids? Have you heard of this?
I have, yeah. But
it's
I don't know.
Gen Alpha are always on their iPads, so they like never, they're just constantly like.
Oh, when he's always on his phone and he's not like paying attention to her, he's paying attention to
and he reminds me of that. Even though he's Gen Z, right? He's not
Gen X or millennial. He's millennial.
He's millennial. Oh, geez.
He's like 32. She's 37 or something like that.
Well, he reminds me really strongly.
Same generation.
Of like a Gen Alpha kid where like you just can't peel his tech away from him.
Yeah.
And like he just ignores everything around him in favor of like his phone, and she is just not on that page at all. I don't know who would be though, to be honest. Like who wants that in a partner?
Not her.
Yeah.
Somebody that doesn't like their partner that much. We find out Colette and Muriel are getting married, which we already knew, but Muriel is pregnant.
Besides our wedding, we have a baby on the way. We want to focus our energies on that.
Happened right away, I think, so they hit it off quickly, you could say, which is great. And they're just like, they're delightful to see, and they're super happy. And yeah, it's like the bonus wedding, you know?
It's still annoying to me that they weren't one of the couples they followed, and it almost feels like production understands that because they're like bringing them back in, bringing them back around.
Didn't they technically not get together? They got together after... Because they didn't get together. They didn't propose there. They proposed later, right?
Again, Zach and Bliss, it's the same thing.
No, they did propose. Because they met each other, but then she got nervous and bailed. Okay.
And then she left.
Oh, but then you talk to Zach and Bliss. They brought Bliss basically onto the show, and they had a regular wedding on the show. That's true.
Zach
I forgot
and Bliss
about that.
didn't have a honeymoon.
Yeah, that's
Zach
true.
And Bliss, Zach was with somebody else on his honeymoon, and Bliss was like back in whatever city they filmed in.
Seattle.
Sitting at home.
Yeah.
Right. And then they still ended up following them. And I don't know, maybe that decision had to be made like before honeymoon. So maybe with Zach and Bliss, they were able to do that because they were already following Zach. Maybe. So they could just like swap Bliss in. But, and maybe that's why they couldn't do it with Khaled and Muriel. But both of their personalities seem great. I wish we would have seen a ton more of them. They're pulling them back in for some of these, like, ending episodes. Yeah. I wish they'd followed them the whole time.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people feel that way. Some people are like, release the tapes, or it's crime that they didn't get covered.
Where's the footage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that first episode.
Yeah, that's essentially episode 9.
Woo, it's hot in here. It's like 100 degrees in the Pacific Northwest. But that said, we should probably get some ice water, some ice in that cup, and we'll do an ad break.
And then episode 10 starts with the weddings. And
kicks off with Ale and Renata.
Yep, they're the first wedding. They both seem really excited. Ale tells the camera, and so here's my problem. Episodes 9 and 10, Ale is telling the camera directly, like, I am saying yes.
I'm really nervous, really apprehensive, and if Renata lets me down and says no, I'll be really sad.
I don't remember the previous episodes feeling like he was that bought in.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it feels like it switches, and like he is all in for that wedding.
They probably just cut him saying that,
Maybe.
And then they included it here because they're like, what if they don't, even though he's fully invested?
Right.
They're trying to build tension here.
It's just weird because at one point, even like before that, there's a clip of him saying, we always said we were saying yes. Yeah. Which I don't remember. I know, editing. But like, I'm just like, really? You guys were always saying you were going to say yes? And then they edited it as if y'all were like having this really hard time the whole time. Yeah. It feels weird to me. But I'm happy for them, and they both look really happy.
Yeah, and that's one of those things too where a lot of people are mad about it, and like I hear that, and I do think he's got stuff to work on, but they get married.
To you, I say yes.
Yes, of course.
The wedding's beautiful.
Yeah.
They seemed really happy. His kid was involved. He always seems like a really good dad whenever the kid's there.
Yeah.
Like he seems to really love the kid. But like it seems like a lot of people are going to be frustrated about them getting married. It reminds me of those two, and you've talked about them a few times. Colleen and Matt, where everybody was like, he's harming her. Maybe at first there was some tension. Maybe at first there was some stuff to get through. But they've been together for 3 years, and there's no indication that it's like unhealthy. And I even saw like the comments on the most recent clip of them I saw online, people were actually kind of turning around on it and not just purely hating them. And this is one of those things where it's like, it is a show, we don't see everything, and I hope that people let them move on regardless. Like if one of them is in an unsafe position, I hope they get help or from their friends and family. But if their families are like joining each other and together and they're happy, like we got to let them live, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, that's kind of how I felt about it. And the wedding did look nice.
And it's interesting because like I agree that Ale has some things that he needs to work on.
He's an asshole.
But
he
like,
is. But he's not like
Renata also has some stuff she has to work on.
She was also an asshole.
She was also an asshole.
Yeah.
I also do think, I mean, she clearly really loves Ale's child.
Yeah.
And they have a good relationship, it appears, and she's very sweet with him. And I mean, that's a good huge connection like point. Character changer for a lot of people.
Basically, because she's not a mother. And she's a 2-year-old. She gets to be that kid's mother. I know that kid has a mom, and maybe there's probably joint custody, right? I'm assuming. We don't know what happened. But she gets to be an additional mom, and that could be a really positive thing. That could be really amazing for the kid and her.
Absolutely.
As a growth point for sure. People always talk about like having kids, it won't necessarily change you, but for some people it really makes you think about things differently, and I hope that's the case for her.
Yeah, and Ale looks really happy, and I mean, her friends were still there to support her. Her bridesmaid.
That one that went the most in on Ale was like, if you're happy, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I take from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and you know she's got people in her life too that are going to like sound the alarm if they really think that something is wrong.
She's got a twin. If that twin starts getting cut out or doesn't hear what's going on, there are people that are going to be looking out for her.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? So I don't know. I feel
that.
The same way. I feel like I was happy for them watching the wedding. I understand where people would maybe not be, or people would be wary of him because of some of the ways that he acted. Like, I could understand that.
I would be wary of even being his friend because I don't like people that present the way. I wouldn't be friends with him because I don't like people like that.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not gonna like send him off to the stocks or something like that.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Send him up. What does that mean? Send him to the stocks.
Well, like when you're like, you know that thing, like when you're, it's like a medieval prisoners like getting thrown tomatoes at. I think that's the stocks.
Stock.
I think, yeah.
We move from Renata and Ale into Ingrid and Leandro.
It was a night of reflection. I couldn't sleep a wink.
Their wedding is beautiful.
Their venue was my favorite. They got married at night in this beautiful.
Gorgeous.
And it was just so pretty. My hands down favorite venue and time.
Yeah.
It was so gorgeous.
It was. And she looked beautiful.
Yeah.
And Leandro was like, you can just tell how like enchanted he is by her.
Like literally enchanted.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a perfect word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he clearly just loves her a lot. So you knew he was going to say yes. And then I think the bigger question was whether she was going to say yes.
Yeah.
Because she still had maybe some hesitation
around like his like drive maybe and maturity or something. It's the same thing with all the guys really.
She has 2 kids.
Yeah.
And like she has to make decisions that are going to protect herself and her daughters. So for her, the decision is maybe a little bit bigger than it was for him.
Because that's, again, you're bringing in a father figure, even though they're I think grown or mostly grown. Because the one's 21. I don't remember how old the other kid is, but like that's still somebody's going to be in their life.
Absolutely. That's like you're adding a family member, and she's clearly very close to her daughters and very close to her family.
And her sister who shows up and it seems really cool too. Yeah.
Right. So, but Ingrid says yes. So they get married too.
So they get married. It's like, yeah.
Ingrid, do you take Leandro as your husband?
Yes.
Easy yes, I think there.
Yeah.
I don't think we were surprised at all. We were a little surprised, I think, but the Ale and Renata, because I kind of didn't see it being that easy.
Yeah, I
but
didn't
with
either.
the Ingrid and Leandro, I was like, yeah, these guys, this is an easy yes here.
And they seem like such a good match together. They really seem like they play off of each other well, and Leandro's family is warming to the idea.
Yeah,
So.
they're like, this is real, this is serious. Like,
Yeah.
I wish you'd done it a little different, but the sisters, I think, definitely warm up, and they talk about that. There's some like funny clips about that.
But I do wish them both a long and happy life together.
Yeah, they were all like crying and stuff when they saw each other. It was like really beautiful.
It was really sweet.
And then
honestly.
Leandro, so actually one thing that I really liked is they talked about how Leandro has struggles to like express himself with his feelings. He had great vows.
Yeah.
He had this really great speech planned, and he read it out, and it was I think an awesome step in that direction.
Ingrid, you already complete me every day. And when I say love, I mean true love. You are the love of my life.
She was concerned about it, but he was showing up more because they talked about it.
Yeah.
And it seems like that I have high hope for them.
And that's good for him too. Like it's
Yeah,
good for
good growth.
Yeah, personal growth to like realize that maybe you don't communicate as well as you need to,
Yeah.
and then you make that effort for your partner because they need you to. And
Yeah.
That's just, it's
And honestly,
just a
he'd do
sweet
anything
story.
for her.
Yeah.
It seems
That's
like,
so
right?
Sweet. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be shocked if we get to the reunion and they're like, no, they're broken up,
Oh,
and
God.
like he's a bad guy or something.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be really shocked.
I would be shocked. Next is Marilia. Our dog is bumping the camera. Next is Melia and Patrick. Their venue, I thought, was my second favorite, if I'm going to rank.
I love that you're ranking the venues.
I mentioned at some point when I wasn't intending, but it was 1 and 2, right? Like
Well, because
back
they're
to
in the
back.
forest. Of course it's 1 and 2.
Well, yeah, but the tree, they did a daylight. There's like a cool villa.
Yeah.
Trees were like overhanging the whole thing, and the
It was
camera got
nice.
some beautiful shots.
Who could have imagined that your larger-than-life personalities would bring you to the altar today? Since the pods, the two of you.
What happened? We got to see more of Melia and her dad connecting, and they just seem. I could see. What I said to you is I could see where she gets her goofy from.
Yeah.
I think we may have already seen hints of that before, but when they're talking,
Let's go. I love you so much, Dad.
You're beautiful. I love you.
It's because I take after you.
Damn, Marilia, your self-esteem is high as fuck. Damn, Marilia.
it's so warm, so like fun, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
It
was
really, yeah, you can see like the love and care between the two of them, which is like very heartwarming. It's weird because on the US version, most of these weddings are not heartwarming, and instead you're just like biting your fingernails off,
Yeah,
trying to
right?
figure out if someone's gonna break someone's heart on the altar, or someone's gonna yell at someone or whatever, and their family's gonna storm out. And these weddings
It
were
didn't feel
not
that
like
way at
that at all.
And that's a good point because of the way this wedding goes, I think.
Yeah.
It starts off like it kind of felt to me like they were gonna say yes. Like Marilia came in super positive when she's talking to the camera. Patrick gets to bring his dog Nala, which looks so
sweet.
cute, and he's so like overcome with emotion.
Yeah.
And some of that I think is definitely how beautiful and awesome everything is.
Right.
But then I also think we find out because they mutually agree not to get married, and they even say it at the same time.
Not just yet.
You can tell they talked about it and planned it out. They agreed not to get married.
Yeah.
And I think he's broken up about it.
He literally...
He seems sad.
He was sobbing while he
Yeah.
was giving his vows. He was sobbing when he saw her walking down the aisle.
Yeah.
And you're right. They had clearly had a conversation about it ahead of time. They had clearly decided that they were not going to get married and that they were going to mutually do that.
Yeah.
And say that at the altar. And she seemed happy with the
She
choice.
seemed comfortable with it. He didn't. Yeah. And whatever that is, that doesn't mean that she was the one telling him what to do. But he clearly had strong feelings about it. And the first
Yeah.
time, I think, on the entire show, we really saw a lot of emotion out of him.
Yeah, and the way
it
he
was
talks
coming out.
about it too, the way he talks about it makes it feel like
And I will forever carry each and every one of you in my heart with great affection.
it's almost like the ending of something.
Every time he's saying it,
Right.
he sounds like they're breaking up.
Yeah.
But then she talks about it and she's like, we're just going to date for now.
Yeah.
You know, so it's confusing, and them more than anybody, I'm curious to see where they are with the reunion.
I feel like he felt like it was a rejection. That's like the...
Could be.
That's the vibes that I got. Like, he felt like it was the end of something because he felt like
If she doesn't want to get married, then
Right.
what are we even doing kind of thing?
Exactly.
Yeah, it could be.
And the way he was talking about it, it kind of felt like that, where he kept saying, like, who knows, like, if we're together, if in the
Sometimes you're only with
future.
somebody for a short period of time or whatever, and then you move
Yeah.
on with your lives, is practically what he was saying.
And it didn't really, at first I was like, oh, he's trying to tell her that, like, it's kind of over. But then the more it went on, the more I was like, I almost felt like he was trying to reconcile it himself
It
and
could
be
be.
okay with the fact that, like, things might be fully over between the two of them.
And I think he's prepared for that. I think even if they are like, we're going to try dating, he's prepared for them to not be together in those scenes. emotions. Well, he's preparing himself. Maybe he's not prepared because of the emotion. He's grappling with that, and maybe he's like afraid of losing somebody that he actually really liked. Because he talked about her as like a good, even like saying like a buddy. Like again, like for me and you, like that's a strong thing. You're my best friend, and I would be horrified to lose you. And I don't know if some of that was coming through. Yeah, they're complicated.
Yeah.
But it was, and this is my biggest comparison to the American versions. They respected each other and talked about it before. Neither of them got blindsided at the altar, and I think that's awesome.
Do you think that that's a function of Brazilian culture, or do you think that's a function of the way the producers are interacting with them?
I wonder, because like, so there are going to be fake elements to every society, right? Like, I'm not going to say like all of Brazilian culture is like more real than we are here,
right?
But it's so fake in the American version. It's so like, it almost feels like insidious at times.
It's just weird because there were times in the American version where I'm like, why? So Clay and AD is a good example of this. Why in the absolute hell did Clay not talk to AD ahead of time and say, let's say no and continue to date, we're not ready, and have that conversation before you get to the altar? He blindsided her at the altar.
Made a fool of her.
Devastated.
He blindsided all of us. He kept saying to the camera too. He's lying to everybody.
He blindsided. Yeah. Well, there are people that knew better, but he blindsided me. Okay.
Yeah. You wanted to believe him.
I wanted to believe him real bad. Okay. And I don't understand why they couldn't have done what Patrick and Melia did and just had the conversation ahead of time. And then when they got to the altar, both said, we don't think we're ready. And then whatever the result is, we're breaking up or we're trying to stay together, but we're not trying to be married. Like, I don't understand why the U.S. can't implement this stuff. Because
they have no respect. We have no respect for each other.
No respect for each other. And instead you literally, you heartbreak someone to the point where they're like sobbing on camera and they're devastated. The one girl ran into a ditch, fell in a ditch.
She fell in a ditch.
She fell in a ditch.
That's a first season famous clip, isn't it?
I don't even know if it's the first season, but like
maybe season 2. I don't know. Somebody fell in a ditch.
Wasn't that Giannina? Didn't she fall into a ditch?
She fell in a ditch.
Anyway, that's rude. Making someone that you care about at all fall in a ditch, crying
on
camera is not an okay thing to do. Okay.
Yeah.
So
anyway, they didn't do that. So respect Brazil.
Yeah, for real.
The weddings were all just whatever. They were great.
Yeah. And then they go on to have the party still. Because that's the other thing with the American
they're like,
version.
let's have fun still.
Yeah.
We're here to celebrate. We're still going to enjoy our time.
Right. And that's the weird thing with the American version, too, is like when the relationships are over, like they don't have the party.
They're like, it, we're all going to leave.
The families are just pissed.
Yeah.
Sometimes they confront each other and then they leave and like nobody gets the catharsis of like having a drink and a nice meal at the end of it.
At least have a nice meal.
At least have a meal.
You have this giant party. Take advantage of it.
All right. And then the last wedding, and I'm not really sure why this one was last.
I took no notes on this one.
The last wedding was Vanessa and Leonardo. And I don't really know what to say about this. Because
it was an easy yes?
It happened exactly the way we thought it did. They both said yes.
I know what to say. I really loved seeing Leonardo with his family.
Let's get married.
Let's do this.
You look so handsome.
Thanks.
You're crying. Don't cry or you're going to ruin your makeup.
Because you didn't see his... It's again, the guys, it's maybe semi-global, but they don't show a lot of emotion a lot of the time. It's not like happy tears or sad tears. You see a lot of anger from guys typically, but Leonardo was like hugging his sister and his dad and his mom, and he's like crying, and he's so delighted to see everybody. You can tell how real this was for him, and you can tell he's saying yes because of how overcome with happy emotion he was. It was really cool to see.
You could tell both of them
Vanessa
are going to say
too.
yes.
Thank you for making my dream come true just the way I've always wanted it.
Yeah,
I guess I was just more surprised by Leonardo, and especially like as a guy, I look for examples of men showing emotion.
Yeah,
because I also have struggled to find examples of that at times.
Right.
I mean, I struggle with that myself. So it's good seeing a guy feel that emotion.
Yeah,
very real. Yeah, and it wasn't like him crying for himself or something, that feeling bad for himself. He was happy that he was like supported and he had his family there.
I don't know if anyone else felt this way, but I feel like the hosts liked Vanessa and Leonardo the best.
Yeah.
I felt like they had a connection with Vanessa and Leonardo that was like
they were like
different.
buddies almost.
Yeah, I really felt like they were, like when they attended the wedding, they were actually like choked up.
Our special guest today, God. I prayed, and I know I was.
Yeah.
And they actually cared. It was
Did
weird.
they like know them behind the
I don't
scenes
know.
or something?
Like maybe they forged a friendship of some
it could
kind
be,
or something.
though. Yeah.
Or maybe it's just the way it was edited, but it just felt like they had a weird special connection with Vanessa and Leonardo that they didn't seem to have with the other people. Not like they weren't. They seemed happy for everybody.
Yeah, but you're right. You're right.
It
Almost
seemed
like friends at the
different.
wedding.
Yeah,
maybe
it was
I didn't
weird.
catch up the first time, but yeah.
And that's it.
And that's it. They got married. It was beautiful. It was by the coast. He was wearing blue, and he had the ocean whipping up waves, and she looked gorgeous.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It was if you want to see them, they were good weddings. They were some of the best weddings I've seen in any Love Is Blind season.
Yeah.
I feel like the venues, the people, the vows, all of it was great.
It was. It was really great, and every single one was unique.
Even Melia and Patrick getting not married, it was still good to watch.
It was. It was fun.
Yeah.
And you didn't feel like your heart was getting ripped out of your fucking stomach like you do when you watch the American version.
Yeah.
Literally, the American version, you have to, like, for me, I have to brace myself for what I know is going to come, which is, like, heartbreak and watching people heartbroken. And it was so refreshing to watch these and not have to watch people, like, traumatized on their wedding days. Like, this was nice.
It was the most positive 2 episodes of the entire season.
Yeah. And so successful. Like 3 out of the 5 couples got married, and 4 out of 5 stayed together after.
And had amicable wedding days.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least, which is huge.
So pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have much more to say other than that, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's I mean, it's a recap, so it's not the same as like so we've been talking about the whole time. But love to hear what you think, especially on like the Patricky Melia thing. And I know, regardless of whether or not I say it, people are gonna have thoughts about Renata and Alexandra. So please tell us what you think about all that. I am super curious about the reunion because I feel like there's so many questions about the Evandro and the Ariella situation, and then these weddings as well, that I want to reserve a lot of my feelings until we get more clarification. And sometimes reunions really don't do that, but sometimes they'll give you at least some hints of like what's actually happening behind the scenes. And there have been a lot of allegations and a lot of talk, so I'm curious to see some of that come out.
Well, and we know if Love Is Blind Brazil follows the tradition of Love Is Blind US, then they'll bring up some of that stuff as well.
I hope they do.
And hopefully they do, and we get a little bit more clarity. Hopefully people come with receipts. I would
love receipts. I love receipts. Yeah. Or the show will have at least one clip.
Yeah.
Usually that's what happens because it'll be a tension point and they'll be like, this is what actually happened. We're saving it for now.
Yeah.
It's a little annoying, but at least if we can see it at the reunion, I'll be happy for it.
Yeah. So I'm excited for some of that to happen and maybe give some clarity and for them to like maybe hold some people a little accountable for some of the things that happened on the show. And we're going to watch the reunion early
on Wednesday morning.
And then hopefully, if all goes according to plan with technology, post our reaction
like midday
hopefully. Wednesday.
Yeah, so look out for that. And thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Give us a like and subscribe for more Love Is Blind content. If you want to be a member, you click the member join button. It's $1.99 a month.
We have I
want to thank everybody that signed up.
Yeah, we have a lot of like new members, which is cool. A lot is like a couple.
A lot is 7. And I really appreciate y'all for joining and supporting us, and just people in general are just really awesome for even clicking on the show and watching.
Yeah.
And getting this far. Like sometimes I can't believe that people like watch us talk.
Yeah.
But it's not, for me, it's not just us talking. It's like I love the feedback too, and I love like actually communicating with people.
And getting to meet people
very valuable.
That we would never meet from our home in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
And getting to talk to people about their like different experiences. It's just super, super cool. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll see you Wednesday, unless you're watching The Mole. But yeah, we'll see you Wednesday.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Then I got it knocked, and I started going,
ridiculous.
Oh, that was a tearjerker.
Hey, we're gonna go on a cruise this summer. You should come with us.